And we're back with Legends of Lake Howell. This week, we're doing something a little bit different. We have 5 guests, all from Cox Media. All right, let's take a moment to get to know our guests today. If you can just tell us your name, your current position with the company, and if you'd like to share when you graduated from Lake Howell High School.
So my name is Melissa. I graduated from Lake Howell in 2010, and I am afternoons on K92.3 here in Orlando, and I'm also the music director. So I have a big role when it comes to like helping with events here and scheduling the music and doing a lot like programming wise for the radio station.
Hi, my name is Ruthie Sanchez. I graduated in 1990. And I am a media consultant here at CMG and basically help bring advertisers to market with our radio stations.
Hi, Ruthie. I have you beat. My name's Angela Schlesman. I graduated in 1987. I'm the promotions and activations manager here. And that entails promoting our brands out in the community and trying to help generate ratings and revenue for our radio stations.
Hi, my name is Andy Lee. I'm also a media consultant like Ruthie. I was class of 1988.
And I got the honor of graduating with Ruthie in 1990. My name is J.C. Campese, and I'm the Vice President and Market Manager here at Cox Media Group.
So let's talk about some of your jobs specifically and what they entail, because oftentimes you think of radio and it's just music, but just from your introductions and your jobs, it seems to be a little more involved with that. Now, I know that you mentioned that you were an afternoon host, and do you just play songs that you like, or is there a selection process, or can I call you and say, hey, I've got this new song, can you play it for me? How does that process work?
So, I mean, there's many different ways, and obviously every radio station's slightly different. How it works with K92.3 is there is part of my role is working with the record labels with new music. And so when there is a new song that comes out, when there is a new artist that's, introduced to the country music world, they come to us and they want us to play the song to introduce them to our listeners. So as being on the radio, there is those songs, and then there's obviously the classics, the Toby Keiths, the Luke Bryans, the George Straits, those songs as well. But we do have many ways that you can request songs. Obviously, everyone has their favorite, so you can go on to, we have an app, you can go on, call us in the studio, and there's many different ways. But yeah, it's a little bit of all of it.
Do you have any favorites that you like?
I mean, I grew up on country music, so I'm in the perfect job, I would say. But I grew up on like Montgomery Gentry, and so like classics that to me, like there's no one better. So, I mean, obviously from all different walks of life, everyone has different styles of music they like, but I literally was born listening to country, and that's all I've ever done, so.
Thank you. And then there's the marketing side of it. So how does that work with the marketing, the marketing aspect?
Pass that down.
Yes.
Well, that falls into a couple different arenas, because marketing is also promotions. It's all kind of wrapped up together. And so for the promotion side, it's a twofold, where we want to promote our brands, our 5 radio stations, to gain listenership. And so we'll be out in the community, creating our own events, going to existing events to make people aware that we're here, make them want to listen longer if they already do, or make them new listeners, to our brands. And then we also do promotions with and for our clients as well. And so, from the revenue side, we will bring our brands to, say, sponsor location to generate awareness and excitement, kind of shine the spotlight on what they're doing. So we're helping promoting our advertisers as well, and also our nonprofit and charitable organizations that we work with. So there's that type of promotion. And then there's the marketing piece as well. And so, that can consist of perhaps paid campaigns that we do to help promote our brands. We just did a cash contest sweepstakes, and we did a marketing campaign to support and go with that. We did a lot of social media. So in addition to promoting on our stations, we promoted on outside as well. And then lastly, promotion can come through sponsorships as well, and partnerships. We have a sister station, WFTV Channel 9, and so we will run promos. We'll do cross promotion with them. So we're airing with their weather reports and news updates and things like that across our 5 stations. And then in turn, they run promos for our radio stations. So there's just, like Melissa said, it's a little bit of everything, and it comes in a lot of different pots. And trying to keep all that together and on track, to a common goal, that we're all working together on.
So in terms of marketing, you mentioned that there were 5 different stations.
Yes.
Do you have like a different approach for each station, or how does that
Can
work?
you see my 5 hats? Yes, of course. Yes. So we have 5 different brands, and so you have to have the ability to be nimble, and when we're talking in that brand or in that brand, thinking, like that. And then of course, we'll have folks on our team that are just clearly experts, like Melissa. She's going to know country way more than I ever could, but I certainly understand it, enjoy it, and can promote it. And so we have a promotions team. There's 3 full-time, including myself, and then we have a part-time team as well, about 15. So we all are ready at any moment to promote all of our brands, which is fun because it's a really nice, diverse group of stations that we have, which is something we're really proud of here. So.
And then there's consulting and advertising, and how does that all tie in?
So these guys are in charge of the advertising and help people bring in some opportunities for their companies to grow, and I'll let them speak to that. But ultimately, it comes down to that we're show business, right? And show business has the word business in it. So we are a for-profit company, and so we have goals ourselves to generate revenue and to pay our bills and to keep the lights on and allow ourselves to grow. But the ultimate and cool thing is if we do our job right and these guys bring in partners with us and clients, and we do the right thing by promoting them effectively on the stations that people want to listen to, those companies in turn will grow as well. And if those companies grow, they get more employees. They hire more people. They better their own community. The community actually can grow simply by those companies growing in the communities. And that's what these guys do. It's a noble job if you step back and think about it. We make fun of it because we're just having a blast doing it. But in the grand scheme of things, if all of these 3 things come together, our community gets larger and better. You have people that get their first job at a restaurant that they heard about through our speakers. We have people that their company grows and they're able to buy a new house or send their child to college because of the income they incurred because their business grew because of what she promoted through her speakers. And the only way that can happen is if these guys introduce them to her and the other hers and hims in our building. So it's a really awesome opportunity because it is a lot of fun playing a lot of great music, but it is business. And that's pretty neat. Do you have anything to add to that, Sister Ruthie?
Well, yeah, so, we're the forefront. We're, out there talking to all of the advertisers. If you have a business, you have to market. There's no way to stay in business if you're not speaking to the masses. And radio is a perfect way to do that. When Melissa opens her mic, she's talking to thousands of people at a time. So we, Andy and I get to go out there and talk to these advertisers, figure out what their needs are and how we could possibly help them. It could be with a promotion, an on-air giveaway. It could just be, maybe even some social media, or just having Melissa endorse the product and say, I've used it if she's gotten a chance to use it, and actually put her stamp of approval on it. So there's so many different ways that we can talk to an audience to get them to, frequent the business and do business with that particular advertiser. Angela and I actually work a lot together. Because I get to do, he's right. We have a blast doing this. We get to do events. We actually have code words whenever she calls me. She's like, depending on what station it is. If it's Éxitos, which is a Spanish language station, she'll start the conversation with hola. So that's where I know that I need to work on Éxitos. If it's K92, she's like, hey, y'all. And so we know already which direction to go with our conversation. But, so it's just like she said, it's wearing the different hats. It's knowing how to talk to every different different audience depending on what station we're using. So it is a lot of fun because no day is ever the same. No 2 days are ever the same.
Yeah, a lot of the fun, a lot of the 5 stations we have are just one way we can help our clients grow and make more money. We also have 2 other divisions of our company. One is Cox Events Groups. We do anything from downtown Orlando events to Camping World Stadium events, Mount Dora events, so we're able to help them and get exposure to hundreds of thousands of people through our many events through the year. Also, we have digital advertising too. We're partners with Amazon, partners with Google, Facebook, so we're able to reach nationwide for our small mom and pop clients to our national brands. So we have multiple ways to help our clients, and there's something for everybody. A lot of tools in our toolbox.
Now, have any of you worked in television also?
So this is a funny story. Back when I had hair and I was cool and skinny, I did both a television internship and a radio internship at the exact same time. I was on a TV pilot, a television show, and I was doing some TV commercials, and I had an internship in radio. So I got to, at the exact same time, see both businesses, and I just fell in love with radio for a few reasons. One, we're behind the mic. You know, she can hide a little bit once in a while. She's getting...
First time I put makeup on in a while.
Yeah, she can hide a little bit. People that love Kay love her, but if she's going to the grocery store, chances are she doesn't have to worry about, you know, running into a lot of people that point at her, you know. And television is an awesome medium, and like Angela said, we own and operate 2 television stations in this market. But for me, I fell in love with the radio for the behind the scenes side of it, and also it's music, man. You know, I mean, music makes everybody smile. So it's just a really cool business that I've fallen in love with.
So how do you stay with the changes, and you have the satellite radio and all the different options now? What do you do to stay relevant?
So this is, and I honestly got an email today that I wanted to make sure that if you asked a question like this, I was ready to give it back. So. And honestly, it comes down to, like yesterday with Toby Keith passing away. Something that satellite radio and all of the streaming services, something they cannot do is bring memories and stories to life of our listeners and their time with Toby Keith at concerts or music, something that happened in their life when a song came out or when they heard a song on the radio. We get to bring them that. All day yesterday, we had people calling in and going on our app and doing all the things with us that we could then air back to pull Orlando together. Whereas if you're listening, if you decide to stream a Toby Keith song, you know, you're not going to get that. So I feel like that's something that we can do that none of the other people can't or can.
Additionally, on top of being able to just be local and react, like Melissa said, is a point that Angela brought up before, and that's really taking care of the community in which we live. It's something that we're obligated to do. It's you know what we're called to do, and we're proud of it. We just did an impact study and realized that these 5 radio stations combined generated over $3.3 million for Central Florida alone. We served over 20,000 meals to people that didn't have meals this year. We changed people's Thanksgiving. We changed people's holiday season. We've given away scholarships. We've put shoes on people's feet. That's something that can't be done through a satellite box that floats around the world somehow. We can truly make a difference in our community. Certainly, people can listen to whatever they want through Spotify or Pandora or satellite or, in our days, cassettes. In your days, maybe CDs, and in his days, 8-tracks. But there's always been an alternative to listen to music, you know, and we love that. Where they find out about it first is through the radio. People, I have children that are in college, and they wouldn't say they're huge radio consumption people. Radio's not first. And I don't ask them about songs because they know music. I'll ask them about advertisers. And I'll say something silly like, after 911 call, and they'll answer it 411, and that's an advertiser. They don't hear that on a satellite. They heard it in a radio station. You know, for the people. You know, it's a local attorney that lives here. So it's a fun thing. But ultimately, we're going to always have competitors, and that's great. More variety for the community. But none of those competitors can change someone's lives like we can.
What's a day like in terms of radio? Are there planning meetings where we sit down and you talk about advertising and the songs that you're going to play on the radio? How does that work? What does a day look like here?
Well, I can speak for my day. Every day's different. Every hour is different. From a promotion side, we do meet weekly in my department for each radio station. We have different departments at the promotions meeting every Monday, represented from sales and programming. JC's on. And really, it's just, I always think of promotions as kind of the glue, just tying everything together between sales and programming. So that's a weekly thing. And then I'm sure Melissa has her own music meetings, that she does, and we have sales meetings twice a week. And so, we have our regular meetings, and it really is communication. I mean, we're a communications business, right? And we have to make sure we're communicating with each other because we have so many fine details just flying out the speakers and out the radio station and for our advertisers. It's a very detailed position, all of our positions that we do here. And so we're meeting and talking constantly, as Ruthie joked. It's 24/7. And I always say, if you want to be successful in this in particular, it has to be a lifestyle. This is not a job. And so we live, we breathe it. We were up when Toby Keith passed away. 5 a.m., making sure that information got out to our listeners. So we are always, all of us, willing to do whatever it takes any day, any time of the day. And so it's a 24/7 thing. So my typical day, I kind of focus on 2-3 different things. Is my number one is making sure what's been promised is on the air. So if I've promised that something has to happen, or we're supposed to be at an event, or you're supposed to hear this concert announcement Monday at 9, I can't not miss my mark. Because it's pretty obvious if it's not there, if we don't show up or if we don't say it on the radio. So that's kind of my number one, is to get my commitments done. And then it is working with Ruthie and Andy on moving us forward. So if they have client needs that involves the promotions department, then it's coming up with a plan and some ideas and outline on what we could do to help support that advertiser. So then it's trying to look ahead by seeing if we can bring in more advertising dollars. And then once that comes in, we have to make sure it happens. So it's kind of like what needs to happen today, and then what are we trying to make happen in the future. So I work a lot back and forth with Melissa in sales and programming, just making sure we're getting the work done. So, and also we do event work as well. So we will do over 300 events this year. So that's also coordinating events and making sure all those details are tightened up, and we have a staff making sure that they're happy and setting the stage for a nice environment. So, we're constantly working on that, on making sure we have a nice environment here for everyone that works at CMG, and we put time and effort into that every day as well.
You mentioned it being a lifestyle. So
Yes.
is this something that all of you, in growing up or coming up from Lake Howell High School, that you always want a career in radio?
I want to do that one because in 5th grade science fair, I built a radio station, and I had license plates in my bedroom before I could drive a car. And I didn't know I wanted to be in radio. I look back, I was like, I guess I was just meant to be. I didn't know it was a job. I just knew that I could get in my car and hear some cool music. I didn't know there was jobs behind it. And at Lake Howell, I did weird things. And it was like on the pep rallies, I hosted the pep rallies. And we had, different events. I would always say, I'll do it. And I was in speech class, I'll do it. And so I guess I always was drawn to it, but I didn't know that it was a job, until I was exposed to it and found my home in this business. So that was my story. I think Melissa has a cooler story that I'd love for you to share.
So with radio, normally if you're on the air, the odds of you working at a radio station where you went to high school, middle school, elementary school, it's like not something that usually happens. You usually have to travel to get your first job, and then when you get your next job, it's somewhere else. I mean, we have somebody on our staff who's been to 6 different cities, 7 different radio stations. So I am lucky enough to have gone to elementary school here, middle school here, Lake Howell, and I wanted to plan concerts, like country music concerts. So I reached out to figure out, what kind of degree I needed to do that, because I had no clue. I was just like, okay, well, if this is what I want to do. Is that an events degree? Is that, like, what is that? And so reaching out to somebody here at CMG, I was like, I just want to come in and pick your brain. And they were like, well, you seem like you'd be really good, so let's just give you an internship. And I was like, okay, no problem, I'm there. And then I started off in promotions. I was one of the part-timers Angela was talking about. And I started doing that in 2014 and worked my way up to the music director, which I was telling somebody today, like, this is the position when I got here that I wanted to do in 2014. And so I don't know how I just blinked and somehow I blacked out. I don't know. But yeah, I now play in concerts. So it's pretty dang cool.
Is there any radio host that or DJ that inspired you, any of you, that you could recall as you were growing up, that you can remember just listening to the radio?
I mean, mine was the people who were on the station before me.
Okay.
So, I mean, I grew up listening to K92.3, so everyone who came before me was who I was.
I bet you Angela and I share one that we both have the blessing to work with. His name is Scott McKenzie, and he was on Mix 105.1 for over 20 years in this market. And I was blessed to be his sidekick and producer, and Angela was his promoter. He now gets to watch us have a career from a better view, but he just taught me, at least, that when you're the biggest star in the building, you get to also be the nicest person in the building. You don't have to be a diva. You don't have to expect others to move out of your way. As you grow, you take a step back. As we say in our building when we have a lunch, leaders eat last. And that's our mentality here. And it's a blessing that I got to see it at such a young age, the biggest guy in the industry in our market, be also the nicest. So that's who I would say.
For me, I started radio a little later. I actually won tickets, came here to pick them up, and I told the promotions manager that gave me the tickets, hey, if you ever need help on the weekends, I'm here. And a couple weeks later, I got a call. And so that's how I started. Wasn't planned, wasn't like anything, but it's the best decision I ever made to come. But I would say that I won tickets listening to Tom Joyner. So he was on Star 94.5 previously. And that's who, when I met him, I was more like shocked and fangirl than any other singer, entertainer, because, I listened to him on a daily basis. So that was my person that really excited to work here. Once I said Star 94.5, Tom Joyner, yes, I'm in. So, yeah.
Scott McKenzie, as JC mentioned, and I mean, that's someone I had the pleasure and honor of working with. But before that, a couple that jumped to mind for me is, like Melissa, I'm lucky enough, I went to school here, I went to UCF, go Knights, go Silverhawks, and I've been able to get a job in this business and stay, and so I feel very lucky in that sense. But I remember Baxter and Mark, remember them? On WDIZ back in the day. And then also, I don't remember the name of a particular talent, but I remember being a teenager and listening to the countdown on BJ 105. And as a kid, that was just such a big deal to hear what songs, were the top songs of the day. And I would make sure that I listened to that every night. And then years later, I ended up working at that radio station, which is just crazy. It blows my mind. Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I also listened to Scott McKenzie, Baxter and Mark, WDB, more Howard Stern probably. The radio stations I listened to, BJ 105 was one of them, which is now Mix 105. I also, WDIZ was the station back then to listen to. It was a rock station. Now it's a classic rock station, or it would be classified as classic rock, but it was a rock station along with WHTQ rock. So those were the radio stations.
So let's take a minute and talk about high school and your experience in high school. All of you here are from Lake Howell. You graduated from Lake Howell, but you had unique experiences. So if I could ask you in one word to describe your experiences and experience at Lake Howell, what would it be?
Oh, wow. Do you want to take this one?
Oh, one word? We're not known for one word.
You could use 2 or 3, but just talk about your experience at Lake Howell as a student.
Well, looking back now, I would say fast. Like, when you're in it, you're just trying to be the best student you can be. You're just trying to stay out of trouble. So you don't realize that these are formative years that I really need to be enjoying. So looking back, I would say it was just fast. Like in the blink of an eye, I went to 4 different high schools. I ended up at Lake Howell because we moved down in the middle of my high school years. So I ended up at Lake Howell, graduated from Lake Howell, and I feel it just, my memory is like a one day. Like I just spent one day at Lake Howell for me. So I would say the one word is fast.
I second that because I was going to say blur. Like it seems like thinking back, I can remember certain things, and I know I graduated sooner than you guys, but I just like the days, I just don't remember the ins and outs of what each day consisted of, but there's like moments that I'll never forget also within it. So. You got your word yet?
I'm old, so it takes a minute. I was going to do a little bit different, memorable. It's not that I have all my memories of it, but the memories I have are special. I think about some of the goofiest things. I think about how we were just out to dinner this past weekend, and we ran into 9 people that all were Lake Howell alumni, and we all had a conversation together. That there's friendships that still can exist, and the memories that you have, both good and bad. I mean, you learn a lot as high schoolers. You think you are such an adult, and you really are at the beginning stages of that. But you look back, and I just wish I would have had even more fun, and just not stress out about stuff as much as I did. You're only given what you can handle, and I wish I would have known that a little bit more at that time.
Probably in the moment, the word I'm going to say was not relevant, but looking back at it now, the one word would be fun. Wish we could go back to those days again. It was a blast. In the moment, probably not the word, but that's my current word.
Kind of like Ruthie, I was a transfer student. I went to Lyman High School, sorry, for ninth grade. And then we moved across town and went to Lake Howell for 10th, 11th, 12th. And I remember I was so nervous, because I was starting a brand new school in 10th grade. And it was like the first week of school, or even the first day, I bumped into someone on the bus that we became friends and kind of fell into a good friend group, so I was very lucky in that way. But surprisingly, I was very shy and I was very academic in high school. And so that was really my main focus. So I guess my one word would be studious. Or maybe nerd, I don't know.
So were any of you involved in any extracurricular activities? I know you mentioned pep rallies and...
Here you go.
For my first 2 years of high school, I was in the band, and then after that, toward the end, was involved in volleyball.
He marched in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, so he wasn't just in the band. He went all the way to New York City. I played football and was on the weightlifting team.
This might surprise all of you guys because I don't know if anyone knows this, but for 2 years I was in the JROTC. Oh. So I just didn't like the uniforms. So this is frowned upon, but I would bring my uniform, change in for class, and then change out. And eventually I was like, maybe I shouldn't be in this anymore. So I did that, and I was also part of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes.
I was not in any extracurricular activities in my senior year. In my other high schools I was, but at Lake Howell High School, no, I wasn't.
I wasn't either. I was studying.
So speaking of studies,
Yes.
let's just talk about, did you have a favorite teacher? Who was your favorite teacher?
Oh gosh, I knew you were going to ask this question. I'm terrible with names. I can't remember any specific names, but I do remember I'll never forget this teacher, even though I can't remember her name. It was in 10th grade, and I had an English honors class, and to this day, she was like the best teacher I ever had. I remember she was stern and reading and writing and reading and writing. And I really think to this day with my job, it's helped with having pretty good writing skills. And so she was pretty tough on us, but I remember at the end of the year, the very last day, she brought in chocolate chip cookies for everybody and she smiled. and I probably I felt like I really had a really good foundation in that class. And I just, she really cared so much, but she would not let up on us until the end of the year. And then she finally let us relax after we went through, but we worked really hard. So I would say my 10th grade English teacher, whatever her name is. Do you remember?
Mine was, I had two. One was Miss Smith. Ruthie and I shared that class together, English, because she was so real and let us challenge her and then prove to us why she was right and we were wrong most of the time. But she at least let us, we got to talk. She was probably one of the first teachers that I felt like was listening to us more from an adult standpoint. And then Miss Sands, which is now Miss Sands Marini, she was fresh out of UCF. She was probably 21 or 22 years old and we were 18. And she taught speech and she allowed us to express ourselves and that's where I found my voice.
Yeah, so. Go ahead, sorry. Mine was also Miss Smith. We shared a class, like JC said, but she was my most memorable teacher in high school because we had a lot of one-on-one conversations, and she really, like he said, she when she talked to us, it was more like, okay, you're almost an adult, so I'm going to speak to you as one. And so that was my most memorable teacher.
I had Mrs. Smith as well. She was definitely one of mine. Miss McGee, and probably my favorite, though, I'm naming three, sorry, Mrs. Lewis. I was not, as you go back to my word, was fun. I was not studious. But Miss Lewis held me accountable, and she was my 10th grade English teacher, and she was amazing. So. Sorry.
It seems like English is a running theme here because mine was my 10th grade or 11th grade, Mr. Slowy, because I felt like he taught us a lot of outside of just English. It was like a lot of outside world stuff as well. And to this day, I still keep in contact with him. And, so he's just the one that I remembered teaching me other things besides English.
So our last question for today is for our high school students. And they're looking to go in the radio industry, what advice would you give them?
To not give up, because honestly, it's a long road in the beginning. It's something that if you want it, you got to work for it. And so don't get discouraged, because if you work for it and you really want it, like to me, it took me 6 years to get full time, but I was determined I wanted to be in this market at this radio station. And so you can go that route. If you want to go radio and you want to get another job somewhere else, it's going to be a little bit easier, but stick with what you want and just work off for it.
I don't know if you're allowed to say that word, no, but I appreciate it. Only show that part to the seniors. I would recommend getting involved as early as you can, whether you're part of, in high school, getting involved with production type classes or learning some tools that you can just do, from downloading it off the internet and becoming good at your craft. But once you enter college, you need an internship. You need an internship in whatever you're going to do, but the internship is the door opener. This is a very, very competitive business. There's, 100 plus employees here, but we have 2 million people in this market that if they knew what it was like to work here every day, this is what they'd want to do. On the stage we're sitting, we've seen the biggest stars. We've got to meet them and hang out with them and share laughs and smiles and listen to their music before anybody else ever heard it. We've got to go to some of the biggest events and we've got to change lives. This job is awesome. And as a result, a lot of people would want it. And if you want it, the best way to get in is when you get in college, get an internship. An internship opens your door, and when you get that internship, shine. Make yourself known. Would anybody disagree with that one?
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you all for joining us today. This concludes today's Legends of Lake Howell. Thank you.